Hey guys and dolls, this is Vintageortacky for SimplyBe, and today we're going to be breaking down foundation. Today I'm continuing on with my series for SimplyBe, breaking down the anatomy of a pinup look, and foundation is such a hot button issue. There's like a million, grillion, bajillion videos on YouTube about foundation, drugstore foundation routines, high-end foundation routines, you know, full coverage, light coverage, and there seems to be kind of like a battle where everyone wants to be right. Like, oh, sheer coverage is best, full coverage is best, high-end is better, drugstore is better, rah, 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 rah. And I'm like, dude, it's just foundation. For two, it's everyone's personal preference. I personally like to do a very sheer foundation on a daily basis. I throw on some tinted moisturizer and call it a day. When I'm making a video for YouTube, or if I'm doing like a more like going out kind of look, I'm gonna do that full coverage foundation because I want to look flawless. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite full coverage foundation routine and just the products that I use, and give you some tips and tricks on finding a good foundation for yourself. I will also have a list of my favorite foundations from sheer to full coverage in the description box down below. And I guess that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and get started. When you go to apply your foundation, the first thing you got to figure out is, do you want a full coverage, or do you want a lighter coverage, or do you just kind of want some tinted moisturizer? I'm going to be going for a full coverage today, but if you'd like to know some foundations that I think are fantastic in each category from sheer to full coverage, I'll have them listed for you at vintageortacky.com. The next thing that you want to figure out is whether you are a warm or cool tone, and it's actually pretty easy to figure out. So you want to look at your wrist, and if your veins look more blue, then you're more cool toned, and if they look kind of greenish, then you're either olive or golden toned. Realistically, almost anyone can wear a more golden toned foundation because you have more redness in your skin. That yellowness is going to cancel out some of that redness, which is kind of a hidden benefit, which is why so many foundations are yellow based. However, if you have an olive or a golden skin tone and you use a pink based foundation, it's going to make your skin look gray, so just don't even go there. Before I apply foundation, I'm going to be using a primer today. This is the Hourglass Veil Primer. I love this stuff. It gives a little bit of sunscreen protection as well as just a lovely texture to the skin. So just apply that basically all over like this. Exciting, I know. This is truly a special primer. I think most people that have tried this think it's fantastic. However, it's really expensive. So if you would like to know some primers that I think are great that don't cost $65, I'll go ahead and have them linked at vintageortacky.com. For foundation today, I'm going to be using the Illamasqua Skin Base. This is my favorite foundation because it's very full coverage and it also looks very natural, so it doesn't look too cake face, it doesn't look too painted on. I have to mix two shades because at Sephora the 3.5 is the lightest shade that they sell, so I'm just going to be mixing in a tiny bit of white in with the foundation to make it my correct tone. To apply the foundation today, I'm going to be using a Beauty Blender sponge. This is a sponge that you soak in water so that it absorbs moisture, so it's not going to absorb as much of the moisture from your foundation. As you can see, this is the sponge when it's dry, and this is it once I've made it nice and full of water, but it's not wet to the touch really. Some people prefer a more flat foundation brush like this, or like a kabuki style like this. It really doesn't matter. These are going to give you a different kind of effect. This one is going to be more full coverage, and this one here I feel is better for thin textured foundations, whereas the foundation that I'm using today is very thick, so I find that the Beauty Blender gives me the nicest finish with it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the ball end of the Beauty Blender, and I'm just going to sneak a little bit of product out from, you know, the major amount of it. You can even see that great blurring effect that it has on the palette. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the foundation to the places where I need the most coverage. So for me, it's the redness in my cheeks, right down here on my chin, things like that. So apply the color there first, and I just pounce it. And if you apply too much foundation to an area, you can take the side of the blender and just sort of wipe it away. You're free to just add a little bit of foundation to the areas that don't need really a lot of coverage. So for me, it's like along my jawline and like the sides of my face really don't need a whole lot of coverage. But you do want them to have a little bit of the foundation on for texture, because otherwise it's like kind of weird. Like, whoa, you got some foundation on here and then like none right here. That looks kind of weird. Then I have a couple of places that I need more coverage, so for that I'm going to use concealer. I'm using the NARS Creamy Radiant Concealer in Chantilly, and I'm going to take a little bit of that concealer and just put it on the palette here. Now the concealer is a little bit lighter than my foundation that I used today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring back my little palette knife, and I'm going to mix it in with the foundation, and that way everything is just going to be nice and seamless. To apply the foundation, I'm going to be using my finger, which is sanitized, of course. And just pop it on my under eye, and the warmth of my finger is just going to help that to blend in. And also the texture of your finger tends to pick up product as it's also applying it. So it's almost like the beauty blender of your body. And of course you could use brushes to do this. You could use any number of other techniques to apply your concealer. Sometimes I just like to get in there with my hands and make it happen. I have a blemish that's a little bit textured, so I'm rubbing the concealer in. And that's something you just can't do with a brush. Time to set everything. Now if you have drier skin, you might not want to set things because it can make your skin look a little powdery. The other thing you can do is just use like a blotting film all over just to get rid of any shine. But I have kind of moderate skin and it can get a little oily, so I need to set. I'm going to be using this Wayne Goss brush and the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder, and I'm just going to use that to set under my eyes. Pat, 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 and then sweep. When it comes to setting the rest of my face, I like to use a little puff like this. This is a little velour puff from MAC, but you can get them from any company. I like it because it has a little finger hold, so it makes it easy to set the makeup. And then to set the makeup, I'm going to be using a colorful powder. This is the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in Light. You can see that I need to replace mine pretty bad. It has a nice little belly button there. Then using the powder puff, I'm going to use a little method of pressing and rolling the powder all over the face. So make sure you get that in every little nook and cranny. When you do this, it actually hides pores. Doing the press and roll doesn't disturb the makeup as much. It's just sort of pressing the powder on top of the foundation that you've already applied. Whereas if you were to go in with like a brush or something, or if you were to do like sweeping motions, you can create streaks in the foundation. So you see I'm just sort of pressing, press, 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 press. Press, 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 press. Don't forget to put the powder up towards your hairline, because there's nothing worse than when somebody has like a halo of no foundation. And then here at the bottom, I'll go ahead and do a little dabby wiping motion because I didn't apply any other product there, so I'm not going to streak anything. Okay, so now we're done with basic foundation. I'm going to show you a couple more things before I let you go. So now that I've applied the foundation, I'm just taking a fluffy brush, just running it over the skin to remove any excess powder. I've already done this to this side over here. You guys might already be able to tell the difference between the two sides of my face. On this side, I've added a highlighting powder just to give my skin a little bit of a glow, which naturally skin has a slight sheen to it. It's not totally flat. Whereas this side, I've just used all the products I've just shown you, and so it's a little bit matte and it's a little bit looking. So to bring that light back into my skin, I'm going to be using the Hourglass Ambient Light Powder in Diffused Light. It's a nice light yellow. And I'm using a Hakuhodo brush, and I'm just going to pop that over the skin. Do you see how that just brings it to life? Use just soft strokes on the skin. You don't need to go in there like a freaking army sergeant, like because like an army sergeant does makeup, you know what I mean. Be delicate with your face. It's the only one you're ever gonna have, honey. Well, for Joan Rivers that might not be true either. I like to highlight a little extra on my chin and nose. I'm going to go with a rather subtle contour today. I'm going to use MAC Strata Blush, which you can see is only a couple of shades deeper than my skin tone. To apply this, I'm going to be using an angled brush. This is a Sigma F84 Kabuki brush. It gives me a nice even coverage, and it's very soft on the skin. It's like rubbing velvet on. So I'm just going to apply this right underneath my cheekbone just to make the inner part of the hollow of my cheek recede a bit more. I'm also going to bring this into my hairline a little bit because it's going to give my face a little bit more of an oval appearance. And then finally, on my jawline, this is what we call the 30-second diet. For blush today, I'm going to be using NARS Orgasm. It's one of my all-time favorites, and it's so iconic because it really looks good on so many different people. It's a really lovely peach pink with a little bit of a gold shimmer. I'm using the same brush, and I'm placing the color right here on the apple of my cheek, but not really on the front part. A little bit of a rule of finger with blush is to apply it no closer than a 2-finger width from your nose. Now, results may vary because people's face are different widths, but that's just kind of an in general rule, and that's one that's always worked well for me. So that is my full coverage foundation routine. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, stay tuned next week. I will have my false lashes video. Oh, that was kind of weird looking, right? I'll have my... Next Monday, I will have my false lashes video for you, and on Friday, I'm going to have a video that's unrelated to this series. So I hope you're having a great day. Remember to be vintage or tacky. Simply be yourself. See you, bye.